What's up, guys? Just got back from a PlayStation 5 Yu-Gi-Oh! Edison format tournament. I ended up getting 9th place, so I went 4-2, and I'm going to go over my deck list and then go over my matches and then maybe a few things I change afterwards. So for this tournament, it was funny. I thought it was actually tomorrow on Sunday. Got a text from my buddy asking me to bring some cards to him. I thought, that's weird that you're asking me today. He goes, well, we're down here right now. And I said, right now? He says, yeah, the tournament starts at 1 o'clock on a Saturday. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I literally just woke up, basically sped an hour to get to the event, and went 4-2. Got 9th, which is unfortunate. Both my losses got top 8. Someone has to get 9th, so I guess it was me. That's fine. But overall, the deck played well. I personally do not think that I played well. I had a lot of trouble just playing in the back rows. There were 3 Blackwing decks, and I found myself just really struggling to play through all of their back rows effectively, I guess. And I'll kind of go into that into the matches. But for the deck list, it's the same thing, basically, that I've been playing for a while. I finally picked up a 3rd Death Frog. It happened today where I encountered the one situation where I needed that 3rd Death Frog. It is the first time that's happened in a long time. Actually, the first time ever, I think. I went an entire... I think it might have been the whole match, but at least that game, I did not draw a single Pot of Avarice. I ended up winning the entire match that round, but having the Death Frog would have given me the game 1 win. I just didn't have it, so I had no out to a Go-Yo Guardian on board, which was kind of annoying. So I finally did pick up that 3rd Death Frog. Even for being a common first ed, they're like $5 each. So that was kind of annoying, to be honest, but that's okay. I'm actually not so high on Biel's Frog anymore. I love that it creates these very simple combos, as in I think it takes a 7-card combo from... Is it 7 cards from Colossal, needing 6 materials plus sub, and then another 3 materials, down to like 5 for a Colossal Armory Arm combo. It's very nice, but I don't know if there's a card that I hate drawing more than Beals. Maybe it is worth it. I might have to play around with it a little bit, but yeah. Like I said, I ended up showing up to the tournament on time, filling out the deck list, but I just was not playing optimally. The decisions that I was making throughout the tournament were not very good, and I could tell when I was really just struggling to make combo plays that I should not have struggled. And there were times that, like, my opponent would just have a monster in defense, like a Plague Spreader one game. I could just gone into Flamevelt Urikias and just attack for game. They had no back row, and I just didn't do it. I still ended up winning because I made like a Black Rose play, but when I should have just gone into Flamevelt or Kiers, I would have won. So this is something that I've been trying out, is Fires of Doomsday. Basically, this card acts, in my opinion, kind of like a 3rd Dandelion, sort of. You know, it's just something that you do have to proc on their end phase because otherwise you can't summon. And it's actually been really good. It has kind of influenced my side deck being able to play this. I have really enjoyed it. And if for some reason I can't use it on my turn, then it just becomes discard fodder. And I think that's what I like most about this deck, is that you have a lot of room. I think it's about 10 cards or so that you just kind of get to choose to tech in as a player. And anything that doesn't work at any given time just becomes Fishborg fodder. Now, something I've struggled with a lot with this deck is actually getting to the Fishborg. Despite having 3 Fishborg, 1-for-1 Foolish Burial, and Future Fusion, there are some games I just don't draw into Fishborg. So it's interesting. Again, I did like Fires of Doomsday. It played very well today. It made some of my combos possible, which otherwise should not have been possible. My Body as a Shield over MST has been really cool because, I don't know, lately I've been much preferring the... I've really been preferring to have reactive cards instead of proactive, and so the ability to reactively hit like Icarus attacks or whatever game 1 was very important. So that was the main deck. Again, you might hear something in the background. Got some water running. I do need to find something to move around for the 3rd Death Frog. I don't know exactly what it's going to be at this time, but I do need that. And there's one other card that I want to try out in the main deck, and I'm going to go over that because I was side decking it. Let me pull up my side deck. So for the side deck, I was on 3 Caius, pretty good. My side decking was bad today too. I didn't have any of my side strategies set up. Caius, maybe in the future, I do want to put this in for like Blackwing matchups. I didn't put it in today, and I don't even need to put in all 3. Maybe just like 1 or 2 of them would be good, just as another way to get rid of like Black Whirlwinds or Oppression and just a general strong body that they typically need 2 cards to get around outside of having Blizzard plus a level 4 in the grave. I think it would have been good. Mobius, this card was great. I did side this in for the Blackwing matchups. This card was so good. It's just something that outs, again, multiple back row, which I think is significantly better in that matchup than Caius, even though Caius is still really good. So I think there's a world where I just side in like 1 Caius, 1 Mobius, or 2 Caius, 1 Mobius. I kind of don't like siding 3 Caius because this is going to sound weird, but sometimes you side in all 3 and then you draw too many Caius and you're just having a bad time. Now, here's a tech card that I was running was Destiny or Plasma. I believe, in my opinion, having access to the additional tokens of Fires of Doomsday, you add in the Dandelions, the Treeborn, the easy summoning of Fishboard Frog, and you have this card that is also a future fusion target for Absolute Zero, but it just shuts down a lot of matchups. So extremely easy to summon, and basically any non-oppression matchup, Destiny Hero Plasma just kind of obliterates. So my matchups today were 3 Blackwings, 1 Zombie, 1 Frog, and 1 Hero. Like Hero Frog and then Hero B. So 6 rounds, those were my matchups. I sided in Plasma against the 2, Zombies and the Hero Frog. I actually didn't draw it against the Zombies. I did draw it against the Hero Frog, and I know it made him play not suboptimally, but it forced him to use a brain control where he didn't want to use a brain control. So the only out that they play typically is going to be having access to Absolute Zero, which I don't think Hero Frog is great, to be honest, because we all know how clunky it can be. But then it leaves brain control. He did have the brain control, but because he brain controlled that turn, it meant that everything else I had was relatively safe. So brain control into Ryza bounced back like a magical android that I think I had on board. And then he never had a comeback play after that because his brain control's gone. So again, Plasma actually played very well. And this is the card that I kind of want to try in the main deck. I don't know what it would take, but I do want to try something in the main that makes the main more resilient. I love this deck, but it is tough to be resilient, and that's why I also like Fires of Doomsday, because it's something that makes it to where I don't have to worry about getting OTK'd. Same thing with Gores, and then that's why I like Junk Synchron, because it means that, if I don't have a substitute combo play or whatever, well, then I do still have a Junk Synchron to kind of help me get into level 5s or 6 or something like that. But yeah, Plasma did exactly what I wanted it to do in that Frog matchup, so it was really cool. 1 Breaker. This should still be 2 Breaker. I ended up dropping a Breaker for Mobius, and I think I would still want 2 Breaker and the Mobius. I would love both of them. Breaker, it's important for, getting rid of the Massacre of Strix, the Oppressions, Power Filter, I guess, whatever. But most importantly, and this is what I really underestimated this tournament, was the Fossil Dynas. There were so many Fossil Dynas. I've never gone to a tournament and played such a high density of Blackwings, as in 50% of my matches were Blackwings. And every single time they had access to Fossil Dyna. And I'll go into the matches after that, but it was disappointing, and I need to, in the future, I need the second Breaker to help combat that Fossil Dyna. It was actually really annoying. Offerings to Dedudum, 2 of them, continues to be really good. This card is, I'm not going to do 3, but 2 of them was really, really good. Continues to be great. MST, Brain Control. Brain just typically comes in with, the Monarchs or whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't want to do a Soul Exchange alongside Brain. I think that's too much. I think I can just get away with the deck as it is with Brain Control and the Monarchs. But if somehow, and I don't know, I know exactly what it would take to fit in a Soul Exchange. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not good. But I guess Soul Exchange, a Gladiator Beast, or Blackwing Monster into Mobius or Caius is very good. Same with Brain Control, so maybe it's something I need to look into a little bit. Now, Threatening Roar. This is something that I don't think in real life players have caught on to online play. As in, Threatening Roar is there for like those strong combo decks. You know, whether it's FORG, Gigaplant, I don't know if anyone saw, but my buddy Magic Mullet, I think his name's CJ, he did very well at this local, at his local Florida event. It was like 15K, like top 8 thing where they're giving away Black Rose, all kinds of crazy things. That's kind of what the Threatening Roar is. And Threatening Roar also supports Reckless Greed probably better than anything except Ultimate Offering, to be honest. It's also great in the Lightsworn matchup, of course. It's great against Gladiator Beast, which this deck can struggle heavily against, right? So the idea is I get to get off my multiple Reckless Greeds or whatever and then Threatening Roar. Or if I can just set Threatening Roar, maybe commit just a little bit to the board, and then, you know, the opponent makes a huge commitment just to go Brio, Heavy Storm, whatever, and then I Threatening Roar, and now I can reverse OTK them because they don't have their own Threatening Roar, right? So the idea behind Threatening Roar, I think, is actually fantastic. I think it's an incredible card, but I just don't think the real-life players are to the point where Threatening Roar is actually needed. At least not my local players. Maybe if I were to go to a bigger event, I would see some more of these high-level players running, you know, something other than just Black Wings, because it's not great against Black Wings, but or Value for that matter. But against basically everything else, again, be it, you know, any FORG variant, any Gigaplant, Light Sworns, Gladiator Beast, like it hits a lot of things. This card's so good. Now, unfortunately, in order to get that second breaker, I think it means either dropping Threatening Roar, maybe one of them, or the Plasma. Again, if I want to move Plasma to the main deck and just try something different, that opens the spot for a breaker, but I do like Threatening Roars now. Similar to Threatening Roar, just something that helps buy turns with, for the Reckless Greed, are going to be Torrential Tribute and Mirror Force. Kind of the same thing, but, you know, these cards are also just outs to Fossil Dyna or Vanity's Fiend, Christia, whatever, depending on the gameplay. So, really good cards. I don't think I utilize these nearly as much as I should have. I cited them in a lot. Maybe I just didn't see them, I guess. I don't know. It was kind of weird, again, because Fossil Dyna was smoking me all day. And then Trapstone. Card's just really good. Again, against Black Wings, against Frog Monarchs, anything that I'm expecting, you know, heavy back row or specifically discard traps or anything. This card did come up and ended up winning me the game, I think, against, it was Blackwing or my zombie matchup. I forget which. They had one back row. I did a play. They tried to torrent, and I just trap stun them into oblivion, and it was game from there. So that's the deck list. Let me lay out the deck one more time, and then I will talk about my matchups real fast. I guess actually I can just lay out the extra too. The extra, there's nothing special in the extra deck. Nothing special. Mistworm, I don't know. Maybe Mistworm could become something else. Maybe I don't need 2 Colossal Fighters. I think you do need 2 Colossal Fighters because it can play against, it can play around like Necrogardna. It can play around Deep Prisons or something like that. I don't think there's anything here. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes I do want the 3rd Armory Arm because it does come up where if they leave like, I don't know, Vayu or Sangan or something ridiculous, right, on board, I can still triple Armory Arm Colossal OTK, but it's been a while since Mistworm's come up. Maybe it's just because I'm missing the lines. I was not very well practiced for this event. I was just out of it. I was making a lot of misplays, and my sequencing was pretty trash, to be honest. Anyway, so let me lay my deck list out, and I'll just lay this out while I go into some of my matchups. Round 1, I played against Hero Beat. I'm not entirely sure. He wasn't new. He's played before, but he's mainly a Pokemon player. He literally said he just found out about FORG frogs less than a week ago, as in what the deck is and kind of what it does. And so that's what I mean when I say things like real life players, they just haven't caught up to what's happening in the online metagame. And certainly haven't caught up even a little bit to what's happening around the world. So he pretty much normal summoned Alias Pass game 1. I did have Heavy Storm, I did go first. I did summon Swap Frog, send Treeborn, and then game 2, or he set like 2 back row. I heavy stormed, and then I just OTK'd him. Game 2 was almost the exact same, where he just summoned Alias, set 3, and then I just OTK'd him right after that. Same thing. Armory Arm OTK'd him. I had heavy storm again. So it's kind of unfair, to be honest. Round 2, I played against Blackwings. Now this, I played against my buddy Sean Montague. He is an excellent player. So, pretty bad matchup in terms of, I don't think this deck has a bad matchup, but if it did have a bad matchup, it's just Blackwings that can side in, Mask Restricts, Skill Drains if they have it. Skill Drain's pretty good against this deck. Royal Oppressions, Fossil Islands, like, they can side in every single hate card for Fishboard. Well, game 1 was actually the game where it was very back and forth. Everything about it was very back and forth. But this was kind of the time where I realized, man, I am making some major misplays. I have a lot of plays, but it was just very tough to play against Blackwings, who all day long were just going set like 3 back row. And you don't know if you're supposed to play around Mirror Force. You don't know if you're playing around Torrent. You don't know if you're playing around Bottomless, Deep Prison, Icarus Attack, whatever, right? There's so many things to play around that it just becomes extremely tough. And I just never chose my tough. I just kind of always kept everything open instead of trying to play against, just deciding, well, that's probably like a fake card, this card, whatever, and I'm going to play against it. So I never really did that, and it kind of cost me a lot because there's one point where he had like a Go-Yo and 1 back row, and he's at 2,000 life points, I think. And I had a Brio line, but I just didn't take it, and instead I ended up making this super weird wrong play into an Armory Arm, and I ran out of space. I just ran out of space on my field. I didn't count how many spaces were on the field. I didn't count how much damage I was actually going to get out of the Armory Arm. Basically, I was planning to equip the Armory Arm to the Go-Yo, crash my monsters into it for game. But that was when I realized, well, wait, I don't have another Death Frog, and it wasn't enough damage. I just didn't have enough damage on board. Now, I don't think I even drew a single Pot of Avarice this entire match. I know I didn't draw it the first game and the third game, but that was when it like hit me. I was like, man, I might need the third Death Frog. So I ended up losing that game. Going into game 2, super back and forth. I kid you not, I was at 400 life points. He was at, I think, 7,600 or something. And he had, I forget it, this might have been the game. That was the next game. I forget what it was, but I made some play into, I don't know. I ended up just coming back and winning this, though. I was at 400. He was at 76. And I think he used up most of his resources to get me down that low. And he just couldn't do anything once I got even a slight established board. I was able to just win. I do remember he went through all 3 of his Kalutes by turn 2. So actually, he opened up turn 1, attacked with a monster over one of my defense monsters, and Kaluted it. I summoned Breaker and tried to attack over his monster. He had the second Kalute, and then it was actually a Shuro, which searched out the third Kalute. So by turn 2, all of his Kalutes were gone, which helped a lot in terms of how I can play the future game. And then game 3 was wild. My hand was not particularly great, to be honest. I opened up a pretty bad hand, especially against him. And there was a point where he had out Darkened, and Darkened was just smoking my board because all I could do at this point was just set Fishboards. And I think if he would have kind of realized what I was doing, he should have known, oh, he's setting Fishboards. His hand's probably terrible. And he used Darkened Dragon once to send it, summoned a Brio, bounced another card. So his resources were actually running low as well. But he only had 1 card left in hand, Brio, Darkened, and 1 set back row. I drew. And when I drew, he shotgunned Deck Debbie in my standby phase, or in my draw phase, or whatever it was. And my hand ended up, so his field after he tributes is 1 set back row, a Brio, and 1 card in hand. I actually top decked into Brain Control, which I used, puts me down to 700 life points, take his Brio, sacrifice for Mobius, hits a set Icarus, attack with Mobius, and he has 1 card left in hand. His neck draw. ended up, and I don't think I had any cards. It was just Mobius. His next draw ended up being a Kalute or Masker Restrict. So he had Kalute in hand with Masker Restrict. He sets both. I draw. I actually have Trunade and Pot of Avarice in hand. Both are dead. Can't use either of them. Swing with Mobius. Hits over Kalute. His turn, he rips into a Shura, so he has to set it because I think he was down to about 2,000 life points at this time. He was 2050 maybe. He was in range that Mobius was going to attack for game if he didn't do something. My turn, I draw. It's Substoad, goes to the grave. I only have 3 monsters, so I can't use Avarice. I swing with Mobius again. His turn, he draws, sets another back row. My turn, I draw. And then I use like Trunade and return his cards to hand and attack for game. So that was an incredible back and forth game. I had a really powerful draw with the brain control that I'm not sure it could have been anything else at that very specific time while I was under deck Debbie. So I won that. Round 3, I actually go on stream, and it's embarrassing. Game 1, I OTK him pretty fast. Game 2, I probably should have had game, but with this deck, you get into like these really weird game states where you almost have too many resources, and you have everything available to you, and the choice that you have to make plays makes it very difficult to choose which play to take. And the thing about Black Wings and this guy is that happened in this specific case is you just have buco back rows, and it just kept happening, and I just couldn't decide what to play around. And so by trying to play around everything, I played around nothing, which ended up making me lose. And I should have won, but I didn't. But then we go into game 3, and this, again, it's not, I don't think it's a misplay, but how it played out was super duper frustrating. My turn 1, I have the hand where I have like Foolish Burial, 1-for-1 Fishboard Blaster. I should have never lost this. It would have been good to go into like maybe Stardust play if I could have, but I don't think I could have. I think I was out of resources because of the 1-for-1 instead of just having like a normal substud. Anyways, I end up with like a board of double dupe, sub, and Fishboard with Treeborn, or not Fishboard, Flip Flop with Treeborn and Grave, and my hand is 3 cards. One of them I think is Mobius. So I could not ask for a better opening. Could not. His turn, he just summons Bora, sets 2 back rows, and maybe something else. I forget. But I think my turn comes around. I special summon Treeborn. He doesn't use a back row. So I know I have Mobius in hand. But then he doesn't use Torrent when I summon Treeborn, so I feel good. So I go ahead, use Substode's effect, tribute itself for Death Frog. So now I have Death Frog, Flip Flop Frog set, 2 dupe frogs, and Treeborn. I could sacrifice Treeborn for the Mobius, hit both back rows, but I'm pretty certain he doesn't have Torrent, but I don't want to lose my dupe frogs to a Chainlink 2 Icarus attack. So I figure, well, if I just attack with Death Frog, it will either force like a Mirror Force, Deprison, whatever. I can then go ahead, sacrifice main phase 2, hit the other back row with Mobius, not a big deal. And then I can flip the Flip Flop Frog to put the Bora back in his hand just to maybe set him back a turn. So I decide to do that. I attack. He actually drops Kalute. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. If he has Icarus attack, it's fine. Well, then I flip Flop, and he actually has Deck Devi that he can now use because I use on the Kalute. Like, so many things had to happen exactly to his exactly. How do I put it? So many decisions I make had to be exactly in his favor for this to happen. So he ends up hitting my entire board, Chainlink 2, so I don't get my dupe effects. I lose 2 cards out of my hand maybe or something like that. But my hand is still, I think I still have Mobius and Salvage are my last 2 cards in hand. And he only has 2 cards in hand. So I can't summon Mobius, but he has 1 set back row, 2 in hand. So I think he's 1 card ahead of me at this time, but I'm getting back Treeborn. I'm drawing next turn, but I'm under deck Devi. And I just got absolutely blown away, tilted a little bit for sure. His turn, he draws, and it actually ends up going back and forth again a bit longer into the game. This game, both my Death Frogs actually got banished between a Bottomless and a Prison, which is kind of why, again, like, I do want to use the 3rd Death Frog because sometimes you actually just need it. I've never needed it, but today it did come up a lot, especially against the Black Wings. And anyways, back to the game. It went back and forth a lot again. I don't think I got the full value out of the Mobius I should have got. I don't exactly remember what happened. But we get to a point where I still have the live tree board. I have Goyo on board. He has no cards except for Shura. And then I think that's all I had. So I used Goyo attack, take the Shura. His turn, he draws, sets a monster. My turn, I draw. I don't remember what it was. I don't think it was a very good card because it didn't help. So I just bring back Treeborn and defense. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't know. But life points were extremely low. But I was going for my game shot, basically, at this point. He's under, I think he was around 1,500. So Goyo attacks, and then Shura should attack for him. But I attack with Goyo, and the card that he actually topped of all cards was Fossil Dyna, of course. So he blows up my entire board, which is extremely sad that is like the one card that he drew. And then his turn, he either draws into... What did he draw into? He drew into something that allowed him to go like into an Armor Master. And basically, I lost either the next turn or 2 turns later or something like that. So that was kind of like a really frustrating loss that I think I just played it wrong. Not just that one Mobius play, because I don't think that Mobius play was wrong, but how it ended up playing just ended up being very unfortunate. Round 3, I played against Frog Monarchs, I think. And Frog Hero. And Hero Frog, pardon me. And his hand was just like atrocious, but it was, I don't want to say one of the easiest wins because we did go to game 3, but this was a game where I dropped the plasma, forced brain control for him to do something that he probably didn't want to do. And I actually ended up just flipping triple Reckless Greed. I had all 3 Reckless Greeds, used them all, and then just drew into 6 cards and OTK'd him that turn with like a Brio and brain control. Of course, his life was a little low, but he never stood a chance. This was probably my most one-sided match of the day. So that was round 4. Going to round 5, I played against Zombies. Ultimate Offering Zombies. Again, kind of a non-game. He did win game 2 just because he went first and he had access to Ultimate Offering, which let him do his full play. And of course, he used Ultimate Offering to summon Fossil Dyna. So I lost to Fossil Dyna. Okay. Not the deck, just Fossil Dyna. Otherwise, I would have won. But then game 3... just a non-game. He had a decent hand, I guess, but it was 5 traps, Plague Spreader, and Turtle, and Dark Armed, I think was his hand. But I did hard draw my Caius. Caius banished both Plague and Turtle, but one of his cards was Return from a Different Dimension, so he still had plays, but I had maybe Trunade or Heavy Storm or something like that, so he had to use it a little bit, so he had to use it defensively instead of offensively. And I was just able to go into Brio and ended up winning the game against that. So that was against them, against Zombies. That was round 5. Then round 6, again, I X and 1 going into the final round. And game 1, I OTK him. Game 2, he just does standard Blackwing things with oppressions and all this types of just really annoying stuff. And then game 3. This game is what solidified me that, hey, you need more breakers or something. He literally opens up with just Fossil Dyna pass. That's his whole play. Normal summon Fossil Dyna, end his turn. My opening hand, I even sided out stuff so that way this wouldn't happen. This was my opening hand. Those were my first 5. These were my first 5, and I think I drew at this point. I drew into, what did I draw into? I drew into Salvage. So these were my opening 6 against a Fossil Dyna pass. His hand was atrocious. And I sided in 7 outs or something like that. Maybe. It was something like that. If I would have drawn at any point in the next 3 turns, even one card that could have outed Fossil Dyna, I OTK him. I did not draw any of them. I ended up getting 9th place, and that's why I lost to. It was just Fossil Dyna. So that was pretty disappointing. Anyways, I talked about some of the cards I want to put in. I will be putting in my 3rd Death Frog. I do want to try Plasma and the Pain, like I said. But hey, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching the video, and goodbye.